Hello and welcome back to Continental Club. We're back in the East Dulwich Tavern. Michael McCubs is here with me, but we don't have Henry Hill. He's in Morocco. So in his place, we've got an excellent replacement. We've got Alex Barker, aka the Euro expert. Welcome to the channel, Alex. How are you doing?
Doing very good. You've made an upgrade, I think.
Oh, here we go.
It's an honour to be on. Thanks for having me on.
Absolute pleasure. Just to fill everyone in behind the scenes, Alex has been doing a bit of work experience occasionally, helping us out with some scripts, which has been really helpful. So it's great to have him on the show today. McCubs, how are you doing? Your old manager Mourinho completing the trio of European trophies last night. You must be delighted for it.
What a guy! What a guy! Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's capped off a really good season for him. I was saying yesterday, it's his best career, it's his best year in management since 2014-15, I think. So fair play to him. You know, he's made a decent comeback. His Roma side looked pretty decent. Having said that, they were trying to keep the ball in the corner on the 80th minute. They were happy to literally just have the ball in the corner for 10 minutes. So, like, despite them having actually played some quite good football this season, they did not play any, they basically didn't play any good football last night. So yeah, one in true Mourinho fashion. I also realised on ERU we didn't give a shout out to Lyon for winning another Champions League, Women's Champions League title.
Good point.
Amandine Henry's opener, I think, is maybe my goal of the season. It's just ridiculous. Kind of reminds me of Steven Gerrard in his pub. So go and check out the highlights of that as well. So I wanted to shout out them as well. Yeah, two worthy winners this week.
Absolutely. And Alex, you've got your Roma shirt on.
Yes.
You were pleased with the result yesterday? I mean, as a neutral football fan, maybe you didn't really care too much, but...
Yeah, I thought we were saying off screen that the competition's actually been quite a big success. I've really enjoyed watching it this year. I mean, it's the team that beat Roma, Bodo Glimt. They were the one that really, actually found really enjoyable to watch. Just this unknown Norway team, but playing some great football throughout the competition. I was a bit gutted in some ways that final didn't win, but at the same time, seeing the fan reaction for Roma's victory, that was class, I thought.
Yeah, they were a passionate fan base to say the least last night. Guys, it's the big one today. We are doing our team of the season. All the seasons have been wrapped up, all the leagues, I should say, have been wrapped up. And the rules are simple. We are not including Premier League players. This is Euro Football Daily, this is Continental Club. You know the drill. We are also going to try and fill out a 4-3-3 formation. Probably the most commonly used around Europe. But other than that, there's no sort of other criteria. You don't need to try and match and think about how team chemistry would necessarily work. Maybe in midfield a little bit more. But let's kick off with goalkeepers. Alex, who has been your European goalkeeper of the year?
Well, I'll be surprised if we don't all have the same name down. Mine is Maignan. I think he's been excellent for Milan this year. He's kept his form going from last season as well. And I think you guys will probably touch on more his overall stats. So one thing I wanted to touch on is a weakness he's actually improved on. That was one thing that was still kind of lacking from his game last year. One thing that you could see him get him undone was crosses, especially from corners. It's the one time where he looked a bit like De Gea in 2011-2012. And it's interesting to see how his cross stopped rate on Fubrev has increased by 4% this year at Milan. And I think another thing that's been interesting is how at Lille last year when he won the league, near the end especially, they were played a bit like a Mourinho team. They were sitting back, 4-4-2, just packing the box really, and Maignan was really just a shot stopper. At Milan, he's been asked to play a bit more in a possession-based team and have the ball at his feet. He's increased his sweeping actions outside of the box, and it's been quite a seamless change, really. So yeah, I'd be shocked if you guys don't have Maignan now.
Yeah, I think his long-range passing has been absolutely crucial for Milan, McCubs. And I think last summer, obviously, Donnarumma seemed like a massive, massive loss. But I remember even last summer, we were like, Mike Maignan is a very solid keeper.
Sure.
And it's worked out almost perfectly, that transfer.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that there's a bit of bias. Like I think kind of Donnarumma, winning Italy the Euros and then somehow getting player of the tournament, which is still I still hold a bit of a grudge about that.
He got Ligue 1 Keeper of the Year as well. Yeah. There's like blindness to Donnarumma.
It's pretty mad. I mean, Donnarumma is still an amazing keeper, and in the next few years may well become the best keeper in the world. Like his raw ability is pretty frightening. But Maignan is the better keeper right now, and Milan got. They did lose Donnarumma for free, but for a fairly good price, got who I think he has consolidated himself as one of the top 5 keepers in the world now. Maignan, he's certainly one of the best shot stoppers. As Alex was saying, other areas of his game have improved, especially distribution. Like Donnarumma was it still isn't a great distributor. Maignan has proved that, and there are a number of players in this Milan team that you could shout out, but I think in some ways Maignan has you know, with a defence in front of him that was you know, having to chop and change due to injuries, like Maignan was a constant, and he also came over, you know, adversity, and you know, he got racially abused in like his third appearance. Yeah, I think it was against Juve. Missed 6 weeks with an injury, and there was no sign at any point in the season that he was, you know, that anything away from the pitch was getting to him on the pitch. Like, he's been an absolute professional, and has, you know, come away with a first title for Milan in 11 years. You know, having done a similar feat at Lille last year. So yeah, I can't really look past him. We've got Courtois down here. I think we do have to give him a shout out because Courtois has been excellent. At the same time, it's probably not been Courtois' best season. Like, he's had better seasons at Madrid than this. I think particularly 1920, I thought he was, easily top 2 or 3 keepers in Europe. Like, his save percentage is still world class. His, you know, post-shot XG numbers are excellent. And yeah, Madrid's defence has at points been a bit shaky this season, and he's pulled them through that. Obviously, Champions League final coming up tomorrow. So yeah, Courtois definitely deserves a shout out, but yeah, I think Maignan is clear for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Courtois has had a solid year, but some slight errors in the Champions League maybe count against him in my reckoning. That Bernardo Silva shot that he let past him, I mean, it was a great shot, it was a great goal.
I think that's harsh. I think it's harsh.
Yeah, maybe a touch. But I kind of agree with McCubs, like maybe it wasn't his best ever year, but yeah, I think he's clearly second best. But Maignan, I think, has to take our goalkeeping position. Let's move on to right back, Alex. Jonathan Klaus at Lens has had a lot of credit in, you know, French media, etc. But it might be not someone who our fan base knows so well. What can you tell us about Jonathan Klaus?
Yeah, so he's a right wing back for Lens. He's been in Liga now for 2 seasons. He's had a big rise to the top as well. It's only 5 years ago we've got written down that he was in Ligue 2, and even then he was at the B team of his side, which the name escapes me of. But this year he is 14th in Europe for assists. He's got 11 assists in the league, and only 2 of them have come from set pieces as well. He's been electric going down that right wing, and he's a great crosser of the ball. And he also got his first French call-up at the age of 29 this year. I think anyone at home, if you're just looking for a bit more than stats, I'd recommend looking at that YouTube video online where the whole team in the dressing room is watching Deschamps give the national team call-up. I think it's in October. And as soon as Klaus's name comes up, he bursts into tears. The whole team bundles him. It's a great moment. Yeah. And Lens have finished 7th 2 seasons in a row. As I said, only getting promoted last year. He's one player in that side who I think has really shone. Seko Fofana as well. Shout out to him.
Decore as well.
Yes, who's linked to Crystal Palace. We might see that move come sooner rather than later. But yeah, I think out of all the players in that team, Jonathan Klaus probably gets in. But as you guys have written down, that also may be due to the fact there isn't too many other right backs in Europe outside of the Premier League who have shone. I originally had Jeremy Frimpong down, actually. Yeah. Because he's been averaging over 8 progressive carries per 90. An incredible number. Yeah, that would be, I mean, it's a weird comparison, but it's the one I've got in my head. That would be more than pretty much anybody in the Arsenal squad. We'll see why I say that in a second. But I realised as well, in his 25 starts, he's conceded about 37 goals, so maybe not the best. Klaus, meanwhile, Lens have had a great season, good defence as well, so he's in for me.
Yeah, I think it's a solid shout as well. As you say, I think the best right-backs in the world, all in the Premier League. Hakimi's probably not had his best year in terms of consistency. I think he started pretty well, but seemed to have dropped off, and it's been Nuno Mensch, I think, who's been the more outstanding of the new fullbacks there. Any other right backs to mention? McCubs, Mazraoui, who's just got moved to Bayern, was pretty good at Ajax.
Mazraoui, great at Ajax. I mean, that Ajax team have been great this season, despite not necessarily having anyone who stands out massively. I mean, I guess Tadic had a great first half of the season, didn't he? Haller's been great, but yeah, Mazraoui's been good. I think. What's his name? Dumfries at Inter has been great as well. I know he's kind of shared minutes with Darmian, but when he has played, he's been such a crucial part of that attack. Quickly going back to goalkeeper, the Bochum goalkeeper, I think his name's Riemann. He had an amazing season. Without his saves, I think they may well have gone down. So that's I think he deserves a shout as well, because Bochum's first Bundesliga season in over 10 years. But yeah, to right back, I can't look past Jonathan Klaus. That's the thing. I think there have been plenty of right-backs who've had decent seasons, but no one's really put up Klaus's numbers outside of the Premier League at least. So yeah, I'm quite happy to go with him.
There would be one, I think it was shouted by Yolkstick in the reply to Doogie's tweet, Wilfried Singo of Torino. He's got 7 goals and assists this year. He's one of the fastest players I've ever seen. He's electric. he's only 21 years old, so watch out for him in the future.
Yeah, good shout. Right, guys, centre-backs. I think there are loads to choose from this year. All very young as well, really, really exciting. At Kong VO 77 suggested William Saliba, and I think he might well sneak in there for me. I'm pretty sure on who I want as his partner, which we'll come on to in due course, but William Saliba has been excellent for Marseille this year. Second place for them as well. That's their best, or joint best finish in the last 9 years. Excellent passing numbers in particular. I think only Aymeric Laporte has carried the ball more often, and I think he's very high up there for progressive passes as well. He's been excellent in that Marseille side, and he really sort of forms the sort of he sort of starts most of Marseille's attack in that Sampaoli side. And they've had some ups and downs. They probably didn't finish as strongly as the likes of Monaco, but they got over the line, got that second place, with Monaco dropping points at the weekend in that late draw, so they'll be back into the qualifiers. So I'm putting forward Saliba as my first centre-back. McCubs, of the centre-backs, you can choose anyone. Who do you want to put a case for?
It's tough. I think this is where the debate's going to come in. I think Nico Schlotterbeck needs to definitely have a shout-out at the very least. I think in terms of performing for a side which has enjoyed fairly unprecedented success this season, it's hard to look past him. Was excellent in the DFB Pokal final, unlucky to be on the losing side. Obviously made a great goal line clearance late on. Freiburg, this is their best season since I think 2001, finishing 6th with the same amount of points as they did then. His defensive numbers are brilliant, like 5 tackles and interceptions per 90. He wins 4.2 aerial duels as well. His passing's excellent. His move to Dortmund is very much deserved, and they got him for a decent price as well, under £20 million for him. It is a real snip, and he really defined just how solid strike side have been this season. They got to 6th on the back of a brilliant defence. I would definitely put him forward. I think also in terms of defenders at kind of generally middling clubs, I think Bremer has to be looked at as well. I think potentially the best defensive left back in Europe this season in terms of his numbers for a Torino side which actually do quite a lot of ball retention. I think they keep more possession than Juventus in Serie A this year, and yet he's putting up nearly 7 tackles and interceptions per 90. There's no wonder why he's being rated at around £40 million, and
Serie A defender of the
he
year.
is, isn't he? Yeah, forget about that. So I think both of those. Yeah, I would be tempted to make those my centre-back duo, actually. Okay. I know there's some really good other options, but I'm sure Alex will.
Yeah, Alex, who do you want to put a case for?
It's very interesting because my centre-back pairing was, before I made a couple of edits, the same as McCubs here, but I changed it to Saliba and Tomori. I thought it would start as well. I was going to go with Bremer, but I've watched him quite a bit this year, and I feel like while he's been very good, I think more in the second half of the season, I think he is so aggressive with his defenders. You mentioned his tackle and interceptions numbers are through the roof, but I also think he's left his side kind of
exposed.
Yeah, because he really likes to rush. I mean, Christian Romero at Spurs this year, he's a bit like Romero, but I think a lot more brave and maybe a bit more risky.
It kind of works in that system though, doesn't it? Because they press so high, and his interception numbers are also great as well. So I definitely know where you're coming from. I feel like in a different system, he might be forced to calm down a little bit.
I think that's a good point as well. I think that's been encouraged by the manager Ivan Juric, who really likes that sort of heavy metal style of football. But I've got Tomori and Saliba, and I'll be honest, in my notes I've got a bit on Tomori and Saliba. I've just got Alex, just go off because you know how much you like this guy. He's absolutely brilliant. I think Dougie, you nailed quite a good point on him as well, which I think it's really easy to, when looking at Saliba, to just go through his stats because they are ridiculous. The payoff that I set up a minute ago, Saliba is averaging, I think, over 7 progressive carries per 90, which is more than anyone in the Arsenal squad besides Martinelli and Saka. And the reason isn't just because he's like a Rudiger centre-back who likes to push a bit forward. Under Sampaoli, in this back three, he's been encouraged to move forward a bit more like a right-back. It was really funny, to be honest, earlier in the season when he was often asked to play like a right winger because Sampaoli was like, everyone should just attack, why not? It's a load of fun. But the point I'm making is he's been thrown completely out of his comfort zone. For like a 6'3", 4 defender, he should not be this comfortable and this agile, playing so far out wide away from his natural home as centre-back. And he's been like a duck to water at Marseille. I think the key moment I remember as well, it was when the title race wasn't completely over when Marseille played PSG and Mbappe got unleashed through.
That tackle.
Yeah, that tackle Saliba made was
There's an iconic
brilliant
photo of that as well.
Yes,
It's
put it
so
on the
nice.
screen right now. Yeah. So Saliba's in, and Tomori, I've got in because, I think he's been brilliant this season. The 24-year-old at Milan. Every time I've watched him, he's been great. I think there's only been a handful of times he's struggled. I think against Pinamonti, against Empoli. He's had a good season as well, by the way. Inter Milan loanee. I think one thing to highlight as well of Tomori, a favourite stat of mine is on SofaScore with centre backs. You get ground duels, which is success in 1v1 situations. I think it's a good measure of how often a player is getting past them rather than dribbles attempted. Because as a centre back, you're kind of protected from your fullback. And most centre-backs tend to be successful in 62% of their 1v1s. Tomori is 76%, which I know ranks in about the top 10 of centre-backs in Serie A. So for his age and experience still, he's been brilliant. And a good point to mention as well, when he left for Milan, he was worth £18 million according to Transfermarkt. He's now worth over 40 million. So well done, Chelsea. You made a great choice with that. It's at least not all your centre-backs are leaving this year.
Yeah,
for sure.
He was unfortunate, wasn't he, that he was kind of sold and then Tuchel came in. I just know that Tuchel would have had a home for him. I think
100%.
like it was an unfortunate time.
It was
wasn't
weird. I wonder what went on behind the scenes with Lampard, because he was used a fair bit at the start of the 2019-20 season and then just slightly fell out of favour again. So it was a strange one, but I also really appreciate the fact that him and Tammy have decided to go over to Serie A. You don't get a lot of English players making that move. And they've both become heroes of that club. And I don't think, with Simon Kjaer having got injured, if Tomori had also got injured, I don't think Milan would have won the title. So I would like to put forward Saliba and Tomori as my duo, but I understand the cases of Bremer. I understand Schlotterbeck. I mean, we haven't even mentioned Leo Kovac-Rakic's suggestion of Ronald Araujo. Potentially, I don't think he's probably been Team of the Year worthy, but he's probably worth a mention. David Alaba as well, came in for El Maignan. I think he's been excellent as well, made a massive difference to that side, and the fact that they're going to get him and Rudiger for free just goes to show that Real Madrid have become a lot smarter in the business in the last 3-4 years, which is obviously down to the Bernabeu being redeveloped, down to the effects of COVID as well. But I'm going to go for Saliba and Tomori, guys. I think we need to come to some sort of conclusion.
Also, Josko Guardiola at RB Leipzig deserves a shout out. He's been brilliant last 6 months in particular. I mean, I think Saliba's a really good shout. Oh, it's really difficult.
I'm just saying 2 people have gone for Saliba.
Yeah, I think Saliba gets in there.
You want Schlotterbeck?
I'd quite like to put Schlotterbeck in. Yeah, I think I'd quite like to put.
Alex,
I don't actually mind Schlotterbeck or Bremer.
I don't mind. You can pick for who.
Okay, I don't think Bremer should be in. I think Schlotterbeck. It's a more impressive story. The fact that they reached the Pokal finals, that they finished 6th. Schlotterbeck leaving on a high to Dortmund. Fine, you can go in alongside Saliba. I cannot believe we've left Tomori.
I think you should go alongside Tomori.
Okay. Yeah. Going in alongside Tomori, Saliba, you can be on the bench. Fair enough option. Right, let's move on to left back. Okay, moving on to left back. I think it's probably the second most contentious position in the team, alongside left wing, or just after left wing, I would say. Alex, I'm going to give you the floor. Who do you want to put forward as your left back? And we'll get on to discussing the other contenders.
Right, I want to go with CDHT16 suggestion of Theo Hernandez. Partly because he deserves to be in, and also because the other suggestions we have here are not left backs. Ivan Perisic is not counting here, as neither is Filip Kostic, as good as they have been. Because they're like left wingers, we can't put them in.
I know.
Theo Hernandez, though, I think has been brilliant. I think he's added that attacking threat those 2 guys have brilliantly served this season. And on a similar note to Klopp, he's added a lot of assists this year as well. He's got 5 goals, 10 assists in his league appearances. And he's also averaging 0.37 expected goals and assists per 90 as well in the league. And I think what I quite like about him is how he's developed over the last couple of years. I was reading an interview where he said at Real Madrid, he really was lacking confidence and he was just trying to focus on defending. And then when he got under Pioli really gave him that confidence to push forward, which I think you could argue is culminated in that solo effort a couple of weeks ago, which was brilliant. I've noted down, I think he could be a potential player for like Manchester City. He's good on the overlap. I also think he's great underlapping. If you look at his heat map this season,
he challenges through.
Yeah, he spends a lot of time in midfield. He's so good on the ball. I'm quite excited to see where he goes. He's only 24 still, right? Turns 25 in October, so there's a lot of potential in Theo Hernandez. And I don't think your suggestions should be in.
Fair. I mean, you're being strict there. They're not really left backs. I think Philip Kostic could maybe give it a go. He can play pretty much everywhere, Philip Kostic.
Yeah, he's a wing back, isn't he?
What a special player. I mean, they aren't very, whether they're left wing backs or left backs, they do deserve like a shout out.
Yeah, for sure.
These players. I mean, David Raum's been excellent for Hoffenheim as well. I know you've been a big fan of him.
Yeah, I think he'd probably edge it for me. Like, again, David Raum has played as a wing back for much of the season as well, but defensively he's very sound, and I think considering that he's got 3 goals and 11 assists for a pretty average Hoffenheim side speaks volumes. I think only Trent out of fullbacks in Europe creates more chances than him. I think for expected assists per 90, I think he ranks in the top 10 players overall in Europe. So like, he's seriously impressive given he came up from the Bundesliga's Via last year. Creates nearly 3 chances a game. And similarly to Theo Hernandez, he's just like got really good all-round ability. Like he's really good at going to the byline. He can also come inside and link up with the tackles on the edge of the box. Like his delivery is one of the best of any fullback I've seen this year. Theo Hernandez won the title though, and did score that goal against Atalanta. So like, I'm not too arsed if he gets in, because he did give us that moment, and it was like, it's an all-time great Serie A moment. It's great. I think your point about Pioli is great. I think that's what Pioli, what he's done brilliantly with the side, has just instilled so many players with confidence. And you saw that as well with like, you can tell that the way that he's managed Ibrahimovic as well has just been done so superbly. Like when you saw Ibrahimovic's kind of speech.
He's got no ACL as well.
The fact he's got no ACL, and his speech in the dressing room afterwards, where you had Pioli sitting down with the players to listen to, and you could tell that as soon as he came into the club, Pioli was like, "Yeah, you can basically run the dressing room. You can do whatever you want," and that's kind of how to manage him in many ways, because you just have to stroke his ego, don't you? So yeah, like I think in that sense, yeah, Pioli's, you've seen it with so many players in this Milan squad. They've just like really come out of themselves, haven't they?
I think, and like you mentioned that, I think that's an encouraging note about Pioli as well. How you said like he's built confidence inside. I think it's been a slow burning confidence as well. Like the worry you have with managers like Antonio Conte, as great as they are, they instill confidence so quickly that you fear it can evaporate so quickly as well once they're gone. Pioli's done it over such a slow, steady period. You think these players, I think they're going to be great for such a long time. It's not just going to be a case when he leaves that the squad falls apart.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, their work behind the scenes with Jeffrey Moncada, the chief scout, even Gazidis is a really shrewd football operator. And then overseeing it all, you've got Paolo Maldini, probably the best defender of all time. Imagine if you're Fikayo Tomori taking advice off him, or Theo Hernandez, who was a great left back as well. I mean, he could play all across the back line. So what a fantastic setup from Milan. I'm fully on with Theo Hernandez going in. I would say if it was on European competition alone and not the league, then Philip Kostic might have a good shout if we change system or whatever, because he was sensational in Frankfurt's run to the Europa League final and winning that competition, of course. They didn't lose a game, popping out with goal contributions against Betis, Barcelona, got an assist against Rangers in the semi-final as well. So Kostic definitely deserves a shout, but I'm happy with Theo Hernandez. So far, we've got Mike Maignan, Tomori, Schlotterbeck, was it?
Yes.
Theo Hernandez and Jonathan Klaus. Right, let's move in to midfield. That is a very solid back five. Where do you want to take this, Alex? I know that you've got an interesting shout that you were, it was at the tip of your tongue earlier.
Yeah, you know what? I think we've got a lot of suggestions here, which are probably all more worthy of mine. But I wanted to give him a shout out. The best defensive midfielder in all of Europe this season I've got down is Etienne Capoue.
Oh.
Now I know what you're thinking.
That's had a good year.
Here we go.
What are you talking about? However, I actually think I'm just putting in because I think he does deserve a lot of credit. He's had a great 12 months. He's gone from bossing the midfield in the Europa League final against Manchester United. And this year, he's been an integral part of Villarreal's run to the Champions League semi-final. And yes, we've got the final to preview later on, but we shouldn't forget how well Villarreal did.
Unreal.
And we shouldn't forget how they almost clawed it back against Liverpool with 2 goals, which were both assisted by Capoue, with 2 brilliant assists as well. I think the first one was like a first-time volley across the box, and the second one was like an excellent cross on his weaker foot. Yeah, he's got 6 goals and assists in the Champions League as well. For a midfielder who would drop deep, get the ball, turn, help Villarreal build up, and then make these late runs into the box. Now, he hasn't been quite as impressive in La Liga. I don't think his numbers pop in any major area, but he does complete over a dribble per 90, over 3.4 tackles, interceptions per 90. So, listen, he's 33. He's not going to be going on to any other big club, and he's not as promising or as exciting as any other midfielder we've got here. But I wanted to throw him partly for a bit of a laugh, but also because I do think he deserves some credit.
Well, I think it's a great shout. I remember having an argument with Pat on the podcast about Etienne Capoue. Must have been about 3 years ago when he was at Watford alongside Decore. And I was like, I think both of them are pretty talented, like central midfielders for a club of that level. I think they could easily play higher in the Premier League. And yeah, he's done very well this season. I'm not trying to say, oh, I was right. I've been wrong about plenty of other stuff. But yeah, I think I was right on that occasion. But Etienne Capoue, what a player. McCubs, let's shout out some of these others. I mean, Dani Parejo, your boy JC1, another phenomenal Villarreal season from him. I mean, he's been so consistent for years now, whether it be at Valencia or Villarreal.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think he's necessarily hit the heights that he did at Valencia at Villarreal necessarily. Partly because he's not had to carry this team in the same way. I think Unai Emery's tactics, especially in Europe, have just been superb, haven't they? And I think the way that midfield has looked in general has been like, you know what I mean? It's been quite unconventional, but it has worked. You know, like having Coquelin, Parejo and Capoue in a midfield, within a midfield four, just shouldn't make sense, but it somehow has worked. So like, yeah, I think you have to shout him out. I mean, he's got 10 assists in La Liga for a Villarreal side who, you know, have been very inconsistent throughout the season. You know, 7th place isn't really where you'd expect them to have finished, considering, you know, some of the performances we've seen from them this year. And yeah, his all-round game has been great. And obviously, you know, yeah, one of the most experienced midfielders in La Liga now. So yeah, no, I think he's been great. But I think for the defensive midfield role, I think it's hard to look past Tchouameni. Yeah. I know, like, probably within about 2 weeks, everyone's going to be sick of us talking about him because he is just everywhere at the moment. And he's everywhere on the field as well. Yeah. So yeah, kind of quite fitting in that sense. But yeah, I mean, his kind of evolution has been really key to Monaco's progress this season, hasn't it? Obviously, he was great under Kovac, but he was more of just a kind of passing midfielder under him, whereas he was given a lot more defensive responsibility under Clement, and he's just grown into such a mature midfielder in such a short space of time, and has adapted to kind of tactical changes so quickly. France, but yeah, I mean, it's annoying, isn't it? Just how much talent the country produces. But I mean, yeah, his tackle and interception numbers are brilliant. His kind of progressive carries and progressive passes are brilliant. I don't know. It's kind of, you know, when you get thrown all these stats at you, it is a bit tiresome. But when you're that good all round, and there's already talk that you're quite a loud voice in the dressing room and people listen to you when you're 22 years old for a team that's just qualified for the Champions League. Like, I think it's no surprise that so many clubs are after him, and clubs as big as Real Madrid, where he's going to be, you know, either replacing one of kind of Casemiro or Kroos, probably Casemiro. You know, a club of their stature are coming in for you. So like, I mean, yeah, I think it's hard to look past him. Like when you watch him, it's just so clear how intelligent he is. Like, he's just always in the right place. He's never exerting more energy than he needs to, I don't think. Like, he's able to win the ball and pick out like the perfect pass, you know, in milliseconds. It's just, he's a superstar in the making, essentially. And this is his breakout year. It's hard to look past him, I think. Yeah, for sure. He was also really mature. A couple of weeks ago, he said, you know, I might not leave Monaco. I really wanted to play with them in the Champions League this year. I was gutted to lose that playoff. Now, unfortunately, they've got to do a playoff again because of that result at the weekend. But, you know, there's no guarantee that he will necessarily leave this summer. Look at the Mbappe situation. Like, young players are very much, you know, not rushing things anymore. Having said that, I think it'd be an excellent pickup for Real Madrid. Put it on Twitter the other day. I think they've actually got a greater need for Tchouameni than Mbappe for next year because, you know, their players aren't getting any younger in that midfield. But on the topic, Luka Modric, I think, has to be in our team of the season, to be honest. I think he's a dead cert alongside Tchouameni. I mean, what is it? Something like 3 goals and 12 assists. You know, that wonderful Champions League moment where he crossed to Rodrigo, which sort of kick-started that comeback. And he's just been
so phenomenal this year because he has picked up a lot of injuries over the last couple of years, been in and out the side more, but Ancelotti has managed to sort of manage him in game as well. I think he's been coming off a little bit earlier in some places, and he's peaking at just the right time. And if Real Madrid win tomorrow, it'll be in huge part down to Benzema, but the second most important player in this team for the Champions League this year has been without doubt Luka Modric, and then you're probably looking at Vinicius Junior or Rodrigo. Eden Militao also starts the campaign quite well. So I think Luka Modric is a shoe-in. Alex?
I've got down for Modric, but just to throw in, because if it's true, it's crazy that he's got 8 league assists this season, and that's the most he's got in a league campaign since he played Dingo Zagreb.
Really?
Yeah.
So even when he was at Spurs as well. That's
That is
bad, isn't it?
interesting. Even the Ballon d'Or, yeah.
Yeah,
Blimey.
throw that one in.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, so we've got Tchouameni, we've got Modric. I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah.
Alex, you can pick the final slot.
Oh, okay. Well, I've gone for Matteo Guendouzi.
Really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
I think so. He's got, I believe it was 10 goals and assists this season. 4 goals, 6 assists. But really, I think what Guendouzi's shown this year has been his complete failing in previous years. His mentality has been brilliant. He's captained Marseille at times this year, despite being a player on loan. Okay, there's been an obligation to buy. However, in a Sampaoli team where you've got a manager who I don't think has spent more than 2 years at a club besides when he was at Atletico Mineiro or Chile, I think, in his whole 20-year managerial career. He's known for exploding, and we saw that Marseille beat Nice, 3rd game of the Ligue 1 season, when those viral images went round of the Nice fans bulldozing the pitch. Yeah, and Guendouzi was one of the people who, if I remember rightly, he was spoken about as a guy who's trying to calm it down in the dressing room. And since then, he has been a leader off the pitch and on it. And lots of players and the manager have spoke about that. And he has started, I think, most games as well. I think he's 5th in the squad for league minutes, around that as well. So yeah, I think the 23-year-old, he's taken a huge step forward this year. And he's put his career completely back on track. So I want to shout him out.
Fair enough, fair enough. I think Florian Wirtz would have been worth a shout if he hadn't got injured as well. I think he was sensational for Leverkusen in the early part of the season. Probably not a midfield 3 sort of player, but we're not really playing a 10 in our formation, so I think he needs a shout out. Nabil Fekir similarly doesn't really fit in a midfield 3, but 10 goals and 10 assists in 47 games this season. I actually haven't watched as much Betis as I would have wanted to, but I'm still kind of baffled that he's there. But him and Sergio Canales have been excellent this year. They both deserve a shout. So who's our third slot? McCubs, you get final say.
I don't know. I'd like to give Thomas Müller a shout out. He's had another world-class season. I mean, 18 assists. I mean,
joint most in Europe.
It's hard to look past him. I think we kind of Bayern have maybe not got the credit as much this season because they were so bad in the knockout stages of the Champions League. But they still won the Bundesliga by 10 points. Müller, he's still so influential in that side, and is still one of the best creative kind of players in Europe. I think we need to give him that shout out. Also, Tonali definitely needs a shout out for his form in the second half of the season. He's been so good for Milan. I would potentially even put forward Müller, but I'm not emotionally attached to him. So
Tchouameni's doing a lot of defensive work with Modric and Müller.
For sure. I think Modric also gets in because he also gave us one of the best Champions League moments of all time with that outside of the boot.
I
think he's worth a shout as well, for sure.
Definitely. Crucial goal on the second last weekend as well against Juve, which sealed their European football for next year. Still can't believe he's at Lazio, but maybe he might move this summer. I don't know. Who should we put in?
Why do we put Guendouzi? Saliba missed out, didn't he? So let's put Guendouzi in.
Guys, who would be your third midfield slot? Let us know in the comments down below. And let's move on to our front line. Okay, right wing, I think it's a done deal. Kylian Mbappe has to be our right winger. We might as well just move on. Maybe a shout for Domenico Berardi from At the Bridge Pod. Sensational year for Sassuolo, but they had a bit of a drop-off this year. Also Benjamin Bourigeaud from At Let's Talk Spurs. Most chances created in Europe's top 5 leagues. Looks like he's going to get a move. I think Lazio, Roma, Leicester and Wolves are all in for him. Great year from the Rennes right winger. But let's get on to the more contentious ones. Let's start with left wing, actually, rather than striker. Complete our front line. I think, we'll complete our front line in due course, rather, but I think left wing is probably the hardest position on the pitch. McCubs, who would you like to put forward as your left winger?
Well, Vinicius Junior has had an amazing year, as has Rafa Leao. But I think the numbers Nkunku has put up this season have been so outrageous. And okay, he's not played necessarily as a left winger, he's played more as a centre forward, but at the same time, I think he has to make the team one way or another. He can play across the forward line. He's carried RB Leipzig at points this season, especially when they were so bad in those first 3 months under Jesse Marsch. Like it's quite difficult. It's easy to forget just how bad they were. And okay, it was mainly defensive issues they had under Marsch. But at the same time, Andre Silva, who was second top scorer in the Bundesliga in 2021, like wasn't firing at all, wasn't being used correctly. And yet Nkunku was kind of taking up that responsibility, and to end the season with 35 goals and 20 assists in all competitions for a player who had never hit double figures in the league before, I just think is such an amazing achievement. This is a player who, even 3 years ago looked like a really promising, emerging, creative kind of midfielder forward. Like he already looked like a very tactically versatile player, especially under Nagelsmann. But yeah, this season has just exploded into one of the best, goal scorers in Europe, and his movement is great. Like he could feasibly move to another club and play as a centre forward. I think he deserves massive credit for that. To have been able to evolve his game in such a way in a year, I think is really remarkable. So I think he edges Vinicius for me in that position, because I think we also know who the centre forward is going to be, right?
Yeah, I think we'll probably all be in agreement. Alex, who's your left winger?
So this is interesting. I've had to think quickly on my feet because I originally had Mbappe down as a left winger.
I see.
Yeah, and
you're going to have on the right then.
On the right, I had Brozovic.
Okay.
I'm not cheating and putting Brozovic on the left. So thinking quick on my feet, I'd probably put Vinicius Junior. I think 21 goals, 20 assists this season is brilliant, but I think it really is that step up he's made in that shot taking. That sold him for me, because even last year, I think he's been terrifying to watch, just like tearing through defences. And what I've liked about him in the Champions League is how I think what we'll see this week as well is, how will Vinicius do against Trent Alexander-Arnold? But really what he likes to do is sort of pin himself on the centre-back and then just target them and make them feel really uncomfortable. I think that's smart play from him. I think he's become quite mature under Ancelotti, and obviously that partnership with Benzema, what a redemption from them two, apparently not being on the best terms. Yeah. So yeah, I'd probably go with Vinicius Junior. I think he's had a great year.
Oh, it is difficult because I think both of them have been sensational. But I kind of want to go with Rafa Leao.
Really?
Even though his numbers aren't comparable. I just don't think Milan win the league without Rafa Leao, and I think it is the most impressive story of Europe. Like, Vinicius Junior is playing in a much better side who should have won La Liga this year, given the troubles of Barcelona and Atleti, and the fact that for most of the year their main competition was actually coming from Sevilla. And then, Nkunku's been sensational. He was great in the Champions League, got a hat-trick against Man City, but they finished fourth. I mean, under Tedesco, they were second in terms of form, and they won a Pokal, which he scored in the final. Like, that's very impressive. I can't argue with their claims. But I just think in the last 5 or 6 games, I mean, I've got it written down here, 3 goals and 5 assists in the last 7 league games.
Recency bias.
From Milan, from Rafa Leao for Milan. And I just don't think with Giroud not being where he was, 5 years ago, despite having excellent years, Zlatan having no ACL, Rebic being slightly off it, Salamakers doesn't really deliver a lot in terms of goals and assists, neither does Brahim Diaz. Like, Rafa Leao won that title in an attacking sense for a Milan side that didn't really have that much attacking threat this year. Like, their goals were quite considerably less than Inter. So I think it should be Rafa Leao.
I mean, I do. You know what, Dougie, I do hear you, and I think Rafa Leao's been great. But let me throw you a proposition. Let's say it's Monday, Bank Holiday Monday. People are rewatching Continental Club. Vinicius Junior, he's just got his 5th goal and assist after assisting at PSG, Chelsea twice, and Manchester City. And they watched Dougie ditch him and put Rafael Leao in for left winger.
It's a valid point, and I am making this 4 days after Milan win the Scudetto rather than with the Champions League final in mind. I don't really have an issue with Vinicius Junior. Or I think Moussa Diaby also deserves a little shout out as well.
Yeah.
Not probably making the side.
I think Nkunku still has to be in this conversation as well.
Yeah,
despite him not being like a winger, but like if we're having a forward line where maybe the left-sided player plays more as an inside forward, I still think.
Okay, let's have our 1, 2, 3 in this position. It might help us sort of clarify. I'm still going with Rafa Leao. Then I'm probably going Vinicius Junior, then Nkunku. Personally,
mine's the opposite way around. It's Nkunku first, Vinicius, and then Leao.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
Mine's Vinicius and Nkunku, Leao.
Okay, Leao is out of it. He's lost, so we just need to decide between Vinicius Junior, and Nkunku and Vinicius Junior. It is really difficult.
I'll let you two decide.
What I would throw is I was actually watching Nkunku's highlights earlier, and it is just highlights, so it's not his full match performances. But I will say a lot of these goals have come from sort of Leipzig counter-attacking, running through, and Nkunku just being 1v1. And I'd argue that Vinicius maybe has had it harder. Like, La Liga is the lowest scoring league in all of Europe. The defences it's the oldest league as well. The defences are really experienced. They sit back and they try and frustrate you. They've kind of taken on the Atletico identity. And I think for Vinicius to get 21 goals and assists in 51 games across all competitions, the majority of them coming in La Liga against those defences, I think that's maybe a little more impressive than Nkunku. Not to doubt the player, but just based off this season.
I think was it that goal against Sevilla as well earlier in the season in that really crucial game. I think he turns off the like left wing, cuts inside and just like arrows it into the top
fires
corner.
it in, yeah.
Such a good goal, and that was such a big game at the time. And he's like really delivered in the latter stages of the Champions League. I'm actually angling towards Vinicius Junior.
I'll happily go with Vinicius. I think he's in terms of that position as well. I think he's he fits it, doesn't he?
Okay, Vinicius Junior. Rafa Leao didn't make the squad in the end, unfortunately, although he's got my respect. Okay, let's get into the striker position. Wissam Ben Yedder, I think, deserves a shout out. 32 goals in 52 games for Monaco. That's an insane tally. His link up with Kevin Volland, aka Zac Efron, goes from strength to strength. Tammy Abraham as well, great year. You know, I think 27 goals. I think he's one of only 3 Roma players this century to get over 25 league goals, the other being Dzeko and Totti. He's in elite company there. A lot of his goals have been in the UEFA Conference League, but fair play to that. But I think it's between Benzema and Lewandowski. I think we're probably all going to go Benzema.
Yeah.
But Alex, Lewandowski shouldn't be overlooked in terms of like having another excellent year.
Well, that's a good question to ask, because I've actually got down that I think Benzema should get the Ballon d'Or this year, but I think we should shout out Lewandowski. If he hadn't hit over 40 league goals last year, then all the headlines were about him getting 35 goals in 34 Bundesliga games.
Yeah.
Again, he's been outrageous. And on a similar sort of note to Vinicius, like every goal has come inside the box of Lewandowski. And for Bayern, you're pretty much always playing teams who are going to be sitting back and just trying to hold you out. And I think without Lewandowski this season could have been a bit quite difficult for Bayern Munich, because they've been in transition this year under Nagelsmann. And outside of Lewandowski, not everyone's been on it. You see Gnabry, he's not quite...
His best year.
Yeah, he's not had his best year. I really love Kingsley Coman, but I haven't checked his goal and assist numbers, but I don't think they're as good as last year. And Leroy Sané, he's taken a step up this year, but I don't think he's kept up his form going into the second half of the season. So I think we should shout out Robert Lewandowski. He's had a great year, not quite as good as Karim Benzema. Unfortunately, he's going to be edged out by another player for an award, second time in his career. Yeah. You know, this award is not the Football Daily Continental Club Team of the Season. It's a little more prestigious than the 2020 Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
You know, just a little
I
more.
don't care just as much, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, McCubs, it's difficult to look past Benzema. What a phenomenal season.
Yeah.
I mean, do you see anyone challenging for the Ballon d'Or? I mean, if it was decided tomorrow, or after the Champions League final, I should say.
I mean, if Liverpool win 3-0 and Salah scores a brace, then I think he's in the conversation as well. Yeah, I think Benzema probably will win it. I mean, but regardless of that, I think it's just the culmination of what's been just a world-class 3-4 year period from him. Like, I mean, I think Benzema carries this Madrid side in a way that Ronaldo actually never did. Like, this is a Madrid side that is still transitioning out from the mid-2010s, and Benzema has consistently stepped up over the last 3 years in a way I don't think anyone could have predicted, really. You know, this is a guy who in 2016, 2017, people were thinking about upgrading at Madrid, and yet he's kind of improved in all elements of his game. He's able to, you know, in a similar respect, not that they're the same, actually particularly similar strikers, but in a similar way to the way that kind of Harry Kane has evolved his game at Tottenham, where he's had to kind of just do more work in the kind of middle third of the pitch. Benzema's kind of been like that, but better in almost every regard. Like, he's just so good picking up the ball on the halfway line and being able to spring the attack and then end it. And yeah, his numbers are just unreal. I mean, they are like Ronaldo's numbers in the mid-2010s, 51 goals and 15 assists. I mean,
it's mental.
What is
it's
that?
Absolutely
like
mental.
He scored more goals in the Champions League this year than Messi ever has managed in a single season. Like, I mean, it's just... Yeah,
Big moments as well.
I can't really be bothered because it's just like hyperbole after hyperbole, isn't it, with this guy? Everyone knows how good he is, and on top of that, he's like produced so many clutch moments in the Champions League as well. I don't know if you have anything to add. On him, Alex,
to put him over Lewandowski as well. To add, I think Lewandowski, I think it's more of a machine, I guess. Some of the goals I've seen Benzema score this year have been ridiculous. Like the one that stands out, that header against, I think it was against Chelsea, where he bent his neck back. And if anyone else did that, they'd be in hospital. I couldn't believe it when I watched it. I think the things he's done this year have been out of this world.
The sort of half volley against PSG, I remember as well. It was just like Marquinhos made one bad move or something, and the ball sort of broke to him. And he just nonchalantly hit it in the corner that he wasn't even facing. He's incredible. Okay, guys, we've got a hell of a team. We've got Maignan, Jonathan Klaus, Tomori and Schlotterbeck and Theo Hernandez. Then in midfield, we went with Guendouzi, maybe slightly lucky to make it, Tchouameni, Modric, Mbappe, Vinicius Junior and Karim Benzema. I think it's a good side.
Guendouzi does feel like an odd one out.
I like having a rogue one in there, though, doesn't it? We've got to be, we've got to keep it slightly hipster, don't we? So.
We do indeed. Guys, get your suggestions and complain about who we've missed out in the comments down below. And let's move on to our big match prediction. For big match predictions this weekend, there is only one on the agenda. Also, an update from last weekend. Myself and Henry drew. Which is mad after what? I think we did it for about 20 weeks. We didn't do it for the entire season, but to draw, McCubs was some way back. You've got work to do ahead of next year. But yeah, me and Henry drew. I think we both finished on 41 points. Mad. Wow. Anyway, let's talk about Magnus Riz's question, sort of going into the prediction. What is going to happen in the Champions League final? Now, Alex, I've seen quite a lot of talk this week. I think it was Micah Richards on BBC Sport saying that if Liverpool don't win the Champions League, their season has to be viewed through a disappointing lens, which I think is the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard, really. I mean, what's your take on Liverpool's season and how much this final means to how it's going to be viewed?
Micah Richards used to play for City, didn't he?
He did.
Never would have guessed that. I think that's a load of rubbish. I think to make it to the Champions League final is brilliant, and I don't remember Micah Richards saying that about Pep last year when they lost the Champions League final. Fairness, I don't remember it, he probably did say it. I think they've done brilliant to get here. I know it's been the easier run, but Bayern Munich proved that you can get knocked out by a Villarreal, as we've kind of discussed, and knockout specialists. And Liverpool as well, I'm pretty sure I saw a stat that said they've played in every single game available this season. Yeah, unreal. And
it's 61 or something.
Yeah, and really, if they do lose to Madrid, I don't think they're shaming that, because we're kind of saying off camera that Madrid just have this black magic in the Champions League. No matter what you do, they always come and win. I think there's a couple players who might be out for this game, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I mean, Fabinho's missed quite a few games recently. Thiago too.
Yeah.
Van Dijk didn't start their final Champions League.
And Alaba might be out for Real Madrid. I think that's something quite interesting as well. I think we tend to think of Madrid sort of staying on this generation for years and years until their legs fall off, and Liverpool rebuilding their squad. But I looked at the starting 11s from 2018, and I think the players starting for the Real Madrid who aren't starting now were Varane, Ramos, Keylor Navas, Ronaldo as well. Bale came on, and he's not really in the team anymore. For Liverpool, the only players then who started and not there now are Wijnaldum, Lovren and Karius. So Liverpool really, this could be viewed as sort of like slight end of an era, especially with rumours they're going to try and rejuvenate the squad a little bit this year. So it would be a great thing to cap off. And of course, Liverpool v Ancelotti is a bit of an age-old tale. I mean, Ancelotti as well, he's managed 4 Champions League finals. He's only lost 1, and that was to Liverpool in 2005. 2 years later, he beat Liverpool with Milan. So it's going to be a special occasion. Let's just hope it isn't a 0-0. And let's hope it's not going to penalties, because I'm fed up of watching them. They make my heart stop. Yeah. They're horrible.
It's too much to end a Champions League season on penalties. I just don't think it's right. But I mean, there's no other solution unless you get them to play until they've got no blooming legs left. McCubs, it doesn't feel like it's going to be 0-0. I mean, Real Madrid's knockout games so far have been absolutely crazy. Because they've actually defended really badly at points as well, and they've come up with such clutch goals. I think it's 19 goals in 6 knockout games. Yeah,
I mean, I have this down in my head as that it's going to be a classic, and maybe that will jinx it. So thank you later for But yeah, I can't see it. Like, I know Liverpool have had 2 0-0 finals with Chelsea in the domestic cups, but I can't see it happening here, because I just think, I don't know, that they've both lent themselves really well to great games in this season competition. Obviously, like you were saying, Dukes, Madrid have been, all-time classic ties, haven't they, in every round, especially against Chelsea and Man City. And somehow, despite having a relatively old squad, especially in the midfield, they've lasted really well in those games as well. I mean, to see Modric still running around at full pelt against, I think it was Chelsea, on 120 minutes, I was pretty amazed by. And obviously they have the help of bringing Camavinga on, which Ancelotti's done really, really well in the Champions League. He's obviously got more kind of starting minutes as well as the season's kind of come to a close. So it'll be interesting to see whether, at what point he's introduced, or whether he even starts maybe in the game. I kind of doubt that. I think he'll probably go with the trusted midfield 3 to begin with, at least. But yeah, there's a lot riding on. Obviously, Salah has a right to wrong, doesn't he? Has a wrong to right, sorry. In this game, having gone off early in the 2018 final, Mane has said that he's going to reveal his future after the final. He scored in 2018, but this could be his last chance to
Salah's come out and said he wants to stay as well, which makes me think that Mane might come out and say this is it.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, obviously, it was weird that they kind of both said that at the same time as well, wasn't it? So yeah, maybe Mane's still deciding. This is the thing, but either way, I think it's just going to be really interesting, because Liverpool are going to dominate possession, I think. Madrid have been really, really good on the counter in the Champions League this season. It's really difficult to call. I think they're comfortably favourites, but Madrid have had so much luck and have had so many crazy moments, and have the players who can produce those moments as well, that I would be completely unsurprised if they also won. I think it's going to
either a little bit written.
Yeah, I think it's either going to be quite a comfortable Liverpool win, maybe like a 2-0, or some kind of crazy last minute, 3-2 victory for Madrid.
For sure. Yeah, oh god, it's going to be so fascinating. I think what's interesting is that Liverpool's forward players come into it in quite different form as well. Like Jota probably hasn't finished the season as strongly as he did in the middle patch. Salah has had a bit of a dip recently, but Mane and Luis Diaz in particular are on excellent form, and I imagine he'll go with the front 3 of Diaz on the left, Mane essentially, and then Salah on the right. But Real Madrid, even if they're out of it, or seemingly out of it at 70 minutes, Rodrigo can change a game. We've seen Camavinga have some amazing cameos in pretty much every knockout game so far. But I think he'll start with Fede Valverde on the right-hand side as well, who can obviously tuck into midfield and make that area a little bit more packed out. And unless Thiago's at full fitness and Fabinho's at full fitness, I think it could. It's kind of even for me, to be honest.
I think Liverpool's midfield will be more mobile, at least to begin with, but not having Thiago will be a big. Yeah, I think will be a big miss for them if he is out, for sure.
And as we've already said, they played every game so far this year, Alex, but they also had to go full throttle in the Premier League right to the very end, whereas Real Madrid had La Liga wrapped up at sort of mid-April time.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily true that Liverpool's midfield will be able to run harder and fit out. Modric, we were discussing, he's averaging, I think, over 13 pressures per 90 this season, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I think it's his most for a few years, certainly more than last season as well. And I will say, when watching Madrid, it does feel like they're warming up for 70 minutes. And then in the last 20 minutes, they go, okay, we'll try now. and then they just,
isn't it?
Yeah, it is pretty weird. But I actually think it is quite an even game. I wouldn't edge one of these teams over the other. I think the quality on display is brilliant. And yes, Madrid's squad, there's a lot of old players in there, but I don't think that old players is in their bodies are failing them. I think it's just experience. I think one keynote to touch on will be what happens down the left wing. I think something Madrid have done, I kind of spoke about earlier. I think Vinicius and Mendy have been key in some games where they both push really high up the left, and it kind of creates a big overload, and it's either the fullback is left to deal with them both, or Vinicius is allowed to pin onto the centre-back. So I'll be interested to see how Liverpool handle that, and subsequently how they expose it as well, because if Mendy is going to push really high, and we've seen he is brilliant on the ball. I think it was against Chelsea or PSG where he did a double roulette, and it was amazing to watch. It'd be interesting if Trent just looks at that and goes, okay, I'm going to take that space and just tear Madrid apart. I think that's where the game could be won or lost, especially since down Madrid's right, I think they're going to try and be very conservative.
Yeah.
They might play Freddy Valverde again on the right. I think it could be a contested game definitely on that left wing, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. And Vinicius Junior, I think, gave Trent probably his toughest game of his career so far. I think it was at the Bernabeu in 2020, was it? Where Trent looked so far off it. That was the Naby Keita game where he got subbed just before half time as well. Guys, it's come down to it. It's score prediction time. It's a horrible one to predict. McCubs, you're the one more experienced in this arena.
Oh yeah, but not very good this season. Oh God, do I go for the rematch? No, I'm gonna go for a cold hard 2-0 win to Liverpool. Might not actually be that entertaining.
Fair enough. Alex, what do you think?
Despite what I said earlier, I'm going to go for 1-1 and it will go to penalties.
Oh, no.
And Liverpool will win. And then
God.
2 weeks later, we'll get an EFD explained on why the European finals are going to penalties.
Okay, and you thought Liverpool would win on pens?
Yes.
I mean, there's no points in it, so I don't need to be different, but for some reason, I feel like Real Madrid might win this. I just think those injuries in midfield, depending on the fitness of those players, I think it might be 2-1 Madrid, but I am not confident on any scoreline. Anyone in the comments, if you get it right, I'll shout you out on Twitter. We'll all shout you out on Twitter, whatever. Like, if you get it right, fair play, because I think it's really difficult to predict. But guys, get your predictions in there, please. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. It's been a long one. Our team of the season and the big match prediction, of course, the final one of the year. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. You've been an absolute delight. Where can the good people find you? On TikTok, you're all over there. You're all over every platform.
Self-promo time. Thank you. Yes, you can find more of me if you so wish at Twitter and on TikTok at EuroExpert. It's where I try and preview, especially this summer, the transfers to the Premier League teams from Europe, where you get to know about all these players that otherwise you probably wouldn't care about, but in the kindest way possible. And that doesn't really matter if you're a Chelsea fan, United fan, or an Aston Villa fan. I think the latest one I did was Ekitike to Newcastle. So you can find out why I rate him as a really exciting talent. So yeah, get there and you'll find out.
I love it. Ekitike to Newcastle. Lovely stuff. McCubs, anything to push from your side?
I'll try to think actually. There's an Explained coming out this weekend on, what's his name?
Michael Edwards.
Yeah, Michael Edwards and what he's done. Liverpool, obviously he's leaving this summer. But yeah, Liverpool win the Champions League. What a way to cap it off. Go and check that out. I think it's out on Saturday.
Nice. And I wrote and explained on Ancelotti, which is also dropping on Saturday as well, on why he deserves more respect. Not necessarily a top manager, but definitely deserves more respect, in my opinion. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.